There's like street lights are mere suggestions.
The drivers, etc.
And so there's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
And so we were a little bit nervous about that. So, what do you do when you're nervous about sending someone on something? You call their wife and you see what they say. And she was like, send them.
Welcome to the Luxury Travel Innovators podcast. I'm your host, Adam Deflorian, founder and CEO of ACDS. Let's take off. Today I'm joined by Joe Diaz, co-founder of AFAR Media. Joe, thank you so much for joining me on Luxury Travel Innovators.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Day 3 at ILTM.
Perfect.
Fresh as a daisy.
You sound great.
Thank you.
So what inspired you to start AFAR, and what gap were you trying to fill when you did it?
So we launched AFAR now 16 years ago.
Wow.
I think we opened up the San Francisco office 17 years ago this past Monday. Greg and I didn't come from travel. We were entrepreneurs in different businesses. I was actually a Teach for America teacher right out of college, and Greg and I had met in Phoenix, Arizona. Long story short, we were both kind of winding out of our own individual businesses, and being entrepreneurs and both loving travel, we said, well, in order for us to figure out what to do next, maybe we do a couple trips together. So, travel is a great way to test the bonds of friendship, partnership, marriage, all of the above. And so it was on we did one trip to Argentina, ticket into Buenos Aires, ticket out of Santiago, Chile. This is back in 2006.
Okay.
Nothing planned in between. And so we would just kind of travel spontaneously. We had a great time on that trip. And so we decided to take one more, and this was to India in 2007. Ticket into Delhi, ticket out of Mumbai, nothing planned in between. And the way we traveled, we'd be like, Adam, who are your friends? Tell us who we need to go see next. Oh, you got to go see, my business partner in Pune. You got to go meet this architect that I know in Goa. And so the way we traveled India was through the connections we made of the people that we were meeting in the destinations. At the end of this 6-week trip, Greg and I were hanging out in Goa. Probably a couple of Kingfisher beers might have played into the debrief session that we had. But we said, we have had all these amazing experiences. We met all of these incredible people. There's not really a media brand that's speaking to global citizens who are curious about the world, open-minded, willing to get outside their comfort zone and stretch themselves. We saw other brands out there that were maybe about the fantasy of travel, the supermodel on the elephant on the deserted beach. I love all those things. I travel a lot. I have never seen that before in my entire life, or just kind of the checking the box, the top 27 best this. And we said the hole we were filling was really a hole that we were filling for ourselves, is we wanted to create a travel brand that spoke to travelers in a way that helped them lead deeper, richer, and more fulfilling lives. And so that's how it got started.
It's amazing. And you started, I'm guessing, when you began with print, with digital, what were you doing? I mean, this was 2009,
okay,
right?
so people are like, so you're not in publishing, you're not in travel, you decide to start this media company in India. What's the first? What'd you do when you come back? What's the first thing you do?
Who's your first call?
Amazon.com. We bought 3 books on how to start a magazine.
Okay.
2 of them were written by editors. We love our editors. No offense to them, but one of them was written by an accountant. And we, Greg and I were serious about turning this into a business.
Yeah.
This isn't going to just be a little college project or a little side hustle hobby that we have. We want to bring this to the world in a meaningful way and really see this thing grow. And so we had a meeting with a guy by the name of Jim Kobach, who helped start the magazine for the magazine industry. He worked with Hugh Hefner to help start Playboy. I mean, this guy we met him at the Harvard Club. I remember it was our first meeting.
Sounds like a legend.
He rolls in, and he's like 85 years old, talking about a Rolodex. But he was the guy that really got us started to create a framework and a blueprint that that I think set our course.
Wow, that's awesome. But then when was your first issue published?
Yeah, so our first issue was in August of 2009.
Okay.
So we started hiring folks that actually knew what they were doing.
Okay.
Like our editor-in-chief, Julia Cosgrove, our COO, Laura Simpkins, who have been in the business and really, really knew the business.
Okay.
So they really helped start. Julia helped write the blueprint with us back in 2008, and she's been with us for the last 17 years.
Amazing. Okay. And then you started working off of a subscription model, like your revenue plan back then at least was a mailed subscription model, or newsstands,
the first things we did was we actually, even before we launched the magazine, we always knew this was going to be a purpose-driven brand. This was just something that we thought. We believe in travel as a force for good, and the more we could get people who were curious about the world, open-minded, willing to get outside their comfort zone and stretch themselves a little bit, the more people got out on the world and walked out their front door like that every morning, the better the world would be. So this purpose-driven kind of brand was really something that was with us from the beginning. Long story short, we launched a program called Learning AFAR.
Okay.
So I was a Teach for America teacher.
Yeah.
I know that travel is the best form of education. I grew up with that idea. Our students, my fifth grade students in Phoenix, Arizona, 34 kids, all of them Hispanic, 8 monolingual Spanish speakers, everyone else transitioning into English.
Okay.
Behind grade level, not only in English, but in their own language. And their worlds were 2 miles by 2 miles square, the size of their neighborhoods. They'd never really been able to get outside. And there was one girl in my class, her name was Alexandra, who got to travel a little bit. Her parents had enough means to get her to the Grand Canyon or take her to California and see the beach. And just the way that she was able to interact with me and other adults was just different than the way other kids did. So we started a program called Learning AFAR. It started back in 2009. It's this idea that travel is the best form of education. If we can get young people out in the world at an early age who've never had the opportunity to do that, it not only will change their life, but it'll change the lives of the people that they touch in their communities. So we've sent over 1,600 students on trips, international trips, and $7-8 million that we've been able to fund it, and that's just a big part of what we did. So that was really the first piece.
Okay.
And with that also came a magazine that we published, direct to publisher, subscription model. Yeah. A little bit of newsstand, and then fast forward 17 years, and there's a lot of different touch points that we have, from audio, social, newsletter, events, advisor, special advisor business.
Yep.
So
that's great. What's circulation now look like?
So our rate base, which is what we guarantee to advertisers, is 250,000.
Okay.
We've got a total circulation, I think, of just over 1 million.
Okay.
Mostly for the U.S. for print, which used to be 80% of our business.
Yeah.
It's now 20%. It's not because print has necessarily shrunk. It's just because everything else has grown so much faster. Yeah. So yeah, that's how it all went down.
That's exciting. So what got you into teaching? I mean, let's go back to your personal background now. What Teach for America and like what inspired you to do that? What was your?
It's funny. Life, you just kind of like fall in to certain things. I was a senior in college. I was my best friend and I were talking about, like, what are we gonna do after college? And he was like,
and this is senior year of college.
This is senior year of college. And he's like, well, dude, there's this program that's relatively new called Teach for America.
Yeah.
He goes, we could sign up, we'll get in, we'll apply for LA, and we'll go live with your brother in LA and kind of continue the college life. So, we both applied. we get it's the arrival of the envelopes day, and he got the small envelope,
small one.
and I'm like, I got the, you in? He's like, I'm not in. And I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to LA because you rank your cities.
Okay.
And so they ended up sending me to Phoenix, Arizona. So I really, I honestly stumbled into it, but it was the most eye-opening and rewarding experience of my 20s because, I was fortunate. I grew up in a middle-class household in Palm Desert, California, but like, I always had the opportunity. My parents and grandparents were like, anything education related, we will figure out how to make happen, and just by chance of being born in the right or wrong zip code determines a lot of the resources that and people that get to come into your lives and thinking, so the Teach for America experience was so rewarding for me. Everyone's like, oh my God, you did such a great thing. No, what those kids were able to give me was really the rewarding piece. And so looking back on it, it was a stumble into things. I think it's a little bit like travel. Like, you travel spontaneously. You wake up one morning, you have this, that night you put your head on your pillow and you're like, I can't believe the day I just had.
Totally. Now, how many years did you do that for?
So that was 3 years.
Okay.
And while I was doing that, I was getting my master's in education, as well as I started my own real estate investment business.
Okay. And that's what you did post that.
That's what I did. So I left teaching as a way, because of real estate development. I remember my first day of pulling up into Roseland Elementary School in South Phoenix, Arizona, and one of the teachers, Ms. Santiago, was pulling up as well. This is August, Phoenix, 110 degrees.
I'm from Tucson originally.
She's pushing her 1982 Datsun into the parking lot. And I'm like, that's tough. You're 65, you're pushing, you're beat up. I'm like, teaching is going to be great, but what's that future really look like? So I started buying and selling like single family properties, fixing them up, flipping them, renting them out. And, early 2000s in Phoenix and Arizona, it was kind of like heyday for that. Yeah. So that business grew fast. But honestly, as I thought about the business and like figuring out how to make it a win-win just wasn't working for me. Like, it was almost like a zero-sum kind of game. And those aren't games that I really like to play where like, if I'm the winner, that means you have to be the loser.
Right.
And that to me is what that business felt like, at least at the level that I was operating. And so it was time to really kind of step back and think about what to do next. And that's how Greg and I decided to do a couple of trips together.
Very cool. If you were to, have a conversation with Joe and Greg circa 2009, what advice would you give them about launching a travel brand?
It's funny. I mean, one of the things that we did at the very beginning was trying to figure out where we were going to launch the company. New York was the center of media, publishing, advertising. It really made sense to headquarter the company in New York. One, that was intimidating to us. Like we weren't East Coast guys. We didn't know the city very well, didn't have the connections. The other thing that really influenced our decision was like, in order for AFAR to really work, it has to be different from what the others are doing out there. And part of that difference, a huge part of that difference comes from who you bring onto your team. And as you know, like a lot of industries, it's a revolving door from, one company to another. You go work at Hearst and then you go work at Condé Nast and then you go work at Travel and Leisure, and you kind of just bounce around the circuit. And that works. That's fine. But that doesn't get us to what we need, which is coming at travel in a different way. So we decided to launch the business in San Francisco.
Okay.
And kind of tech.
Were you living there?
We moved from Phoenix.
Okay,
So we
from
moved
Phoenix.
up. So we decided to say, all right, we're leaving Phoenix. We're moving to San Francisco, and we're going to launch the business there. Part of getting to your question of like, what advice would I give us? I think we got a little caught up in kind of this tech mentality.
Okay.
We hired engineers. We had a huge kind of build out team. This is probably like 2 years actually a year into like, what's AFAR.com going to be?
Okay.
And I think we got a little bit caught up in like, we're going to be like a travel tech site. We had like, it was almost like a first version of Quora, like a Q&A site, and you're going to follow people and people follow you, and you can write a question. And like, the advice I would give is like, don't do that. You're not Google, like that's not your expertise. Like, you need to be creating high quality content for travelers digitally and really thinking about that. And so if we could have done anything in 2009 was like, be a great content site. That would have given us more of, I think, a leg up in those early years, and but that's where we are today, and we learned a lot of lessons from that.
Yep.
Expensive ones, but I think we've found a good footing on the digital side now.
So going back, would you have launched in New York instead?
No.
You made the right choice.
We made the right choice. I mean, I think launching in San Francisco is what gave us our original kind of editorial team.
Yep.
That allowed us to come at travel in this kind of different experiential, this idea of traveling deeper, of that idea of seeing the world as it really is, in all of its beautiful colors. We don't have to Photoshop any of, it's like, show people what it really looks like, and I think that came because we were able to bring a different group of editors and creatives into our space.
Are you guys still, would you say, in travel, the only publication that does that? Like you mentioned, there's others that you have those, we know what we're talking about, the classic, photoshopped pictures, like you said, supermodels on an elephant, riding on a beach, or on a horse with no shirt, or, these different things that you see all the time. It looks nothing like real travel. Would you say anyone's copied you?
Imitation is the best form of flattery.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we started AFAR, we kind of coined the term experiential travel. This is what we're an experiential travel media company. If you put in Google in 2009 in quotes experiential travel, you would not have had a page worth of results that made any sense.
Yeah.
Like, go to your computer today and put that into Google or ChatGPT.
Yeah, plenty of results.
Tens of thousands of pages around this, 15, 16 years later. So all travel now is like experiential travel, experiential luxury. So like, the world has moved, the media has moved to where the consumer is or was. And so, we see a lot of the same language that we were using in 2010, 2015, surfacing in other places. But that's fine. We've always kind of been a company that isn't like looking over the shoulder. It's like, where are we going? What are we trying to do? How are we trying to serve? And so that's really been the focus for us.
What do you think makes a great travel story?
At the end of the day, for us, travel is all about people. The power of human connection. There's millions of beautiful hotels in this world. Well, not millions. Thousands of beautiful hotels in this world. Tens of thousands of amazing destinations. But like, when people are asking me, like, what's your favorite hotel? What's the favorite place you've been? The way that I try to process is thinking about those places where I've had really incredible connections with people in those places. So I think human-based storytelling is really, I think, what really makes a travel story powerful. And I think it really comes down to being able to get inside that person's mind, their heart, their soul, and let them, using kind of that framework, be able to tell that story and pull on all of the different emotional kind of strings that come with that. I'll give you just like a quick example of like a story that I think is awesome. So we have a department in the magazine called Spin the Globe. Okay. We literally spin a globe. We pick a spot. We don't tell the writer where they're going until like the day before they go. It's the idea of like, let spontaneity be your guide. We'll edit we're not going to edit your experience. We're going to edit the story. And so Greg and I happen to be in Cairo, Egypt, 3 days after Hosni Mubarak stepped down from power. So Greg called me the day he stepped down and said, I'm going to Cairo. I said, why? He goes, this is like a Berlin Wall moment. Egypt's GDP, 10% of it is tourism. That went away overnight. He goes, want to see what's going on. I'm like, I want to see what's going on too. So we hopped on a plane and got to Cairo and landed, stayed at the Four Seasons. Out of the, I don't know how many rooms, 170 rooms or something they had at the property. Like 3 of those rooms were occupied and 2 of them were ours. So like you're walking into completely empty places, and we got to meet like all these incredible people.
Yeah.
Why we did it, and like it helped launch a couple of other things that we've done in the business. But fast forwarding, so we spin the globe. This is like 6 months later. Arab Spring's kind of happening. And Ryan Knighton, one of my favorite writers, does a lot of great work for us at AFAR. We spin for him, and it lands on Egypt. What we did is we literally cut a hole in a globe, put all the countries in, and then you go spin it, pick one out. It's Egypt. Like, oh shit. Because not because it was dangerous or there was any kind of threat.
Yeah.
Ryan's blind. And if you've been to Cairo, you know that it is not the most friendly ADA city. Sidewalks stop and start.
Yeah.
There's like street lights are mere suggestions.
The drivers, etc.
And so there's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
And so we were a little bit nervous about that. So, what do you do when you're nervous about sending someone on something? You call their wife and you see what they say. And she was like, send them. So, we sent him. He had this incredible experience. And like, you ask Ryan, like, what's the first thing you do when you get off that plane? And he goes, simple. I look for the first elbow to grab. And so it's this idea of like him putting his faith in humanity. This idea of like, 99.5% of the people in our world are here to help us, not hurt us. And just having that kind of mindset is, I think, one that just unlocks the world in an incredible way. And that really kind of, back to the question about, what makes storytelling powerful. It's those threads that, our writers are able to pull through.
How long was he there for?
I think it was like, 3 or 4 days. It was like a 4-day trip.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, right? Because so much of what we just talked about is around humanity, and what makes editorial great and what makes travel great are humans. And, there's so much talk about AI, and there's so much talk about technology and robots and everything else. What do you think about AI in travel and where it's going, what it would be useful for? Is it operations side, back of house? Is it front of house? Is it distribution? Is it marketing? Is it all of the above? And what do you think?
It's all the things, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think AI is going. I was talking to Matthew Upchurch, who runs Virtuoso, and he borrowing his line. He said, AI will give us the opportunity to really automate the predictable so that we can humanize the exceptional. And so I like that quote. I think thinking about AI as a tool that allows you to do your best work. Now, we have very strict rules, like in our contracts,
mm-hmm.
like you're not using AI to write your stories.
Right.
I think there's a lot of opportunity with it. I mean, it allows us to understand our sales funnel better.
Mm-hmm.
It allows us now that we, everyone complains about all the meetings we have, but like now AI can record those meetings, distill those notes, mm-hmm. give you kind of like a good synthesis of things. It's a good friend for research, although you got to fact check the heck out of it.
Yeah, it's wrong a lot.
It's still, there's still a lot going on there. I think one of the downsides that is actually an opportunity for our industry is, AI brings things down to the lowest common denominator. And so that really is an opportunity for those who want to take it to step out and figure out how to differentiate from the lowest common denominator. And so that's really, I think, the dance that we have is like, all right, AI brings things down to like this, LCD
6th grade,
level.
I think, right? Approximately something like that.
Yeah. And I think what people are really looking for today is this like critical eye.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of homogenization in our world, and especially in our space. And so like, give me your real opinion.
Yeah.
Tell me why, not only why you love the hotel, but tell me what you didn't love about it. Why wouldn't it work for us? So I think there's a very healthy space for us to play in that complements the strengths as well as the weaknesses of AI. I mean, we do have a great partnership with Mindtrip. So like that's another example. So Mindtrip is a great AI-based powered travel planning site. We've integrated Mindtrip into AFAR, and the reason why we did that, one, their team is great. I think they've got the best AI travel product out there. If you think about search functionality within websites, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like it's easier to just pop out of that website, even on ours. I think we took search kind of out of it because like you just weren't able to surface all the great results and content that we had, behind that wall. And so Mindtrip AI is able to help bring all of that content forward in ways that are digestible, synthesized, easy to turn inspiration into action. And that's where I think the power of AI can work in a framework like ours. It can bring content forward in ways that not only gets you inspired, but then it can also cut it up and mold it in that same content in ways that just gives you like the points of interest that article talked about.
Yeah.
The people you need to go talk to, and turn those into trip plans that actually get people out on the road.
Do you guys with AFAR, do you have like best hotels ratings and readers polls and all this stuff?
We struggle with this thing. Awards is like one of our, it keeps coming up because we see how powerful it is on the advertising side.
Right.
I mean, if you see kind of these lists from all of our other publishers, I mean, the reasons why you talk to the GM, they're like, my owners want to be in it's not that consumers necessarily care about them very much. They don't even know to have the award until they maybe even got to the hotel or whatnot.
Yeah.
So like we see the power of it from a commercial side. I think what we struggle with is like, how do we do it in our way? And this has been a 15-year question. Like we haven't been able to figure out like, what should have, and so we just haven't been able to do it. And I think, one place we really love is, Forbes 5-star ratings. Because look, they have hard standards.
Criteria.
They've got criteria. They've got anonymous experts that are going into these places and really kicking the tires versus like, we all get the emails, hey, sign, vote for us.
Yeah.
Like how many people have actually gone and done that and, gone and have that experience? I don't know, know? And so I think that's part of like the education that we're trying to bring to like the consumer space is like, understand the differences between what is an award and how they vary.
It was interesting. Here at LTM, I heard the head of Amex Travel, and she was saying, I think that one of the issues with awards is that what is the best hotel? Well, just because it's the best hotel doesn't mean it's the best hotel for a family with 2 young children, or it's the best hotel for a couple, right? The best hotel might be a family-friendly hotel and on that list, right? But you're just going on a romantic honeymoon, right? Or a anniversary trip, right? So that's what makes it, I think, particularly difficult is all of those ratings on the top list. It's like that what's the top or best is actually different for every single person and based on your needs, right? And that where I was going with this is we're talking about AI, and it's one area where I'll be very interested to see how personalization combined with AI about what we know about you and your family is able to curate the best hotels for you, which is going to be a different list than you're going to get, and a different list that Lewis is going to get, and a different list that Jay's going to get, and everybody that we know, right? So it's like, I just think it's so interesting to see the evolution of that.
I feel like you and the head of Amex Travel have been sitting at our conference room table because that's really the thing, right? It's like, what does best really mean? What is 50 best hotels in the world? We got number 2. Like,
Right.
what is it? Number 2 for what? And to your point, even like a step further is like, yeah, maybe is it the best hotel for me at what time?
Yes.
Like I take very different trips, sometimes
Absolutely.
we're here at ILTM, we have a business, like that's a very different trip than when it's me, my wife, and my 6-year-old versus like, boys trip. So like all of those factors really, really play in. But if we're going to kind of think about like the hotels that stand out, it really does come down to those places and the people in those places that really make you feel
Totally
welcome, that open your eyes in a way, that look after you. Those are the things. So we're still human,
Totally.
Given everything else that's going on out there, like those are the things I think we still crave and yearn for.
I mean, actually, more and more, I've been saying it throughout the podcast, that human connection is something that we all crave. And one of the main reasons that we crave it more and more every day is because it's escaping more and more every day, right? Whether it's through digital devices, whether it's through AI, whether it's through automatic, kiosk check-in or mobile check-in where you're not actually interacting with a human, or mobile key, which, there's a time and a place for it. On a business trip, I love the apps that we build here at AZDS where you can just check in and go straight to your room with your mobile key, especially when you land at 1 a.m. and you're not really spending any time in your room. But you do lose every day that goes by through technology. You lose human connection, and when you lose something, you tend to, the typical response is to crave it more. It's to protect it more, and so I think there's, going into 26 and into further years of travel, I do think that human touch, that human connection is going to be something that people just crave more and more and more as it gets taken away from us.
I hope so. I think so. I think, one of the fears that I have is that, as you said, when you lose something, like you either crave it more or you find ways to compensate for it.
Fair enough.
And so like that compensation of just getting onto your, doom scrolling at 2 a.m, thinking, and then all of a sudden, like, why do I feel like shit? Why do I feel hollow? And like, this is why these books like The Anxious Generation and things are coming out, because that's really what's happening. So hopefully we can help this next generation remind them of that power of human connection that I think, you spoke about so well.
Yeah, because I agree. I hope that it's the craving it more, because if it is, then, and I see it in spurts and in places, you see how busy certain places are, and it, I hope that
and knowing how to find it, knowing how to find that. I mean, that's like, look, I have a 6-year-old, and we like to go out to dinner, and like if my wife and I want to have like a little bit of time at dinner, like
you give them iPad,
you pull out the phone or the iPad,
exactly.
and but I see other kids sitting there at the table with the headphones and fully, and I'm like, man, like that's scary stuff.
Yep.
For all of us parents out there,
I know exactly
that are trying to balance I need me time.
Yep.
But, I've got a little one that I'm kind of shepherding into this world. And how do we do that in a way that's going to leave them, better and the world better?
100%. What's your and Greg's ultimate goal for AFAR?
Look, I mean, at the end of the day, we just truly do believe in the power of travel, and travel to not only transform you as an individual, but travel that's able to transform the communities where we're traveling to. How do we continue to be mindful of the costs of travel and minimize those costs? So like, still, as much as AFAR has grown, like if you think about like our space is pretty darn big. I mean, we're the 5th, 6th largest industry in the world. It's billions of travelers. It's a big space. So we have a lot of room to go. So our purpose of being able to talk to and inspire travelers who care to have these deeper, richer, more fulfilling experiences that not only transform their lives, the lives of the people around them, the communities where they're traveling to, like we've got a lot of runway there.
Yeah.
So it's bringing this spirit, bringing these ideas to more travelers, so that they can, continue to use travel as a way to make themselves better and make the world better.
Last, before we wrap up with some rapid fire questions, any trends at ILTM that you've been seeing? Anything interesting?
Yeah, I mean, I do think last year my biggest gripe coming back from ILTM was, the homogenization of luxury. I felt like there were a lot of meetings that I had where if I closed my eyes, I could have taken that hotel brand or that cruise brand and just swap names. I think the brands are getting that message, and they realize, because in this world of AI and homogenization and least common denominator, that they got to find that thing about their brands, their culture, their values that really is something they can lean into and differentiate. And so this power to kind of like stand out, I'm starting to kind of see it, at some of these booths. I mean, just one example, like you go to, we're looking out at ILTM right now, and you see the Sail, which is a new part of ILTM that hosts all the luxury cruise lines in there. If you go in there, everything in there is white and blue. Every booth is white and blue. I don't care what cruise line it is, except for one, AMA Waterways. So like you go in there and you see it, and they're orange. This is their new orange, and so like they realize they are standing out in a literal sea of white and blue. That's not to say that all the cruise lines there do the same thing. Right. I think the reason why cruise is exploding right now is because all the amazing work that cruise is doing to bring folks that are new to cruise in, because of just this explosion of great product that appeals to a lot of different types of people. And so it gives them a lot of opportunity. But these little details of like, how do we really stand out and do things differently is one of the things that I think brands are really kind of grappling with and trying to figure out how to muster up, especially for these older brands that have been around, these heritage brands have been around for 100 years. Like, how do we go back to like what made us us and step back into those shoes with some courage that allows us to, separate ourselves out from the pack.
Remove some of the corporate bureaucracy and just the sea of sameness, like you said. Thanks, Joe. So rapid fire questions. Excited to hear your take on what personal travel are you most excited about next?
Wow. We've got some really great trips coming up. One that I'm excited about is actually a trip that we'll be taking in January, speaking about cruises, on Explora One.
Ah, nice.
We're doing a Caribbean cruise from San Jose to Miami. The reason why I'm excited about it is, one, it's the first time our management team will be together on a ship doing our steer from the ship. But I also get to bring my wife and 6-year-old on. And so it's a combination of, we do it all the time. I hate the word leisure, but like, this business leisure combination, that's something that I think, we gave much thought to earlier.
Totally. The show's all about innovation and moving forward, but for this question, the past shapes the future. What do you miss about the glamorous days of travel?
I know I'm gonna like sound like an old fuddy-duddy now, and I'm also guilty of what I'm about to rail against. But why do you gotta wear like mesh shorts and a tank top when you're getting on the plane? Come on. Like, I don't need the mesh shorts, and I don't need put on some clothes, like, look a little bit, dress a little bit decent, And so, like, this is one of those, like, the golden age of luxury. I'm not saying you need to put on a suit and a tie.
Like it used to be.
Yeah, but, like, let's just kind of show up a little. Let's just show up a little bit better. Now I say that, and they're like, "Well, what'd you wear on your flight over?"
Well, long haul is different. Long haul is different.
Thank you. So you're gonna give me a pass.
Long haul is, then the the sweats are okay.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's encouraged, right? You got to sleep, you got to be comfortable. But on a
Viore's done wonders.
Viore's, that's what I wear. Luxury Travel Innovator Viore's actually.
All right, nice.
But on a short flight, I totally agree. You're on an hour and a half flight or a 2.5 or a 3-hour flight, and it's like you could wear a pair of pants. You could wear a pair of pants and a collar shirt or a polo. So it won't kill them. Last, moving forward, what innovation in travel doesn't exist today that you think is missing? And it does not have to be technology. One of my favorites is, I say it almost every time on every episode, but it was that the luggage racks at most hotels just aren't big enough. When you're traveling overseas, or you're coming into the U.S. from overseas, and the rack barely fits your luggage. They're always too small, and they're falling over and whatnot. Very few hotels actually have the right size ones.
I've never been to a hotel that does have really the right size.
I know.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so this isn't an innovation, but I think it's an innovative way of thinking, especially for us that are like traveling and trying to, for business, and you're bringing, nice clothes. Every time you used to go into a hotel room, you'd have an iron. To iron your clothes. I don't want to pull out that ironing board. Lord knows what's been on that thing, what's gone on that iron. I don't know. You see these travel hacks about people making like their, ham and cheese sandwiches using like an iron and tin foil. Like I pack like my good stuff that I don't want wrinkled in cellophane so that it doesn't wrinkle as much.
That's
so like
smart.
right out of the bags from the dry cleaner. And then I'll hang it in the shower. Not the most sustainable and
but it works, right?
It does.
Yeah.
What some hotels have been doing now, and the first place that I saw this was actually at the Pendry in Baltimore, and more hotels are now doing it, is steamers.
Nice.
Those little portable steamers that instead of an iron and an ironing board, just use a steamer, put that thing right in the closet, and it makes it easy for all
Good job
of
to
us.
Mike Firstman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mike and Alan. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Fun.
Thanks for watching this episode of Luxury Travel Innovators. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. See you next time.